At Thanksgiving, my father-in-law toasted to me for keeping the secret. My husband's smile vanished. Derek finally did it. He ruined everything. And I don't know how to come back from this. I don't know how to fix it. And I'm so frustrated. Sam doesn't want to see me anymore, and everything is all so messed up. My name is Mira, and I'm 33 years old. Well, 34 if I consider my last birthday, which happened to have coincidentally fallen on the same day as Thanksgiving. But I don't even want to remember that day. I wish I could erase it, or somehow just forget it. But it's itched in my memory, and I cannot seem to forget it, and it's all my fault. If I had just followed my instinct. Maybe collected that bottle from Derek before he got drunk and said something stupid. Or perhaps if I had just agreed to go on that trip for my birthday celebration with Sam. One he suggested weeks before Thanksgiving. Then maybe none of these would have happened. Perhaps if I hadn't even thought or done what I had done. Sam, my husband, and I have been married for 8 years now, and we have a son, one who, according to Sam, I might never see again, not if he has anything to do with it. At Thanksgiving, where everyone was gathered, my father-in-law decided to toast to me for keeping the secret. He hadn't said it in a way that would have made anyone suspicious. They all knew we were close, and to everybody else, we only shared a father-to-daughter relationship. But my husband, he saw differently. He must have known too. Because immediately my father-in-law said that, his smile vanished. And what had happened afterwards just rewrote my entire life in the matter of minutes. And the funny thing? I should have expected it, especially after the things I've done. Sam and I met 10 years ago. We were set up by our friends on a blind date. I remember how I had not expected anything from the date, but somehow I found myself going for another date and then another, before we finally started dating, originally when we first got married. We didn't live with Sam's family. Sam worked with a big company that paid well. I didn't even have to work. Sam did a great job providing for us, even after the birth of our son, a year after we got married. And things were really great. I was more than happy to remain a housewife. But things got difficult for us. When Sam suddenly lost his job, the company folded up. Apparently the owner kept mishandling funds and they got duped of billions of dollars. Sam was devastated. It was hard to find a job that paid as well as his former job, and he didn't get in most times when he tried for the jobs. We didn't have a choice but to rely on his savings, and that lasted us for some months, until Sam decided to use the rest of the money to start a business. He was sure he was on the right path. He even used our house as collateral for a loan at the bank. But the business folded up pretty fast, and we were broke soon after. We had to use all of our acquired assets to up the loan to the bank. And then Sam decided that we moved back home, to his family house. He promised me that we were only going to be there until we figured things out, but it was a lie. We didn't figure anything out. Sam settled into the family business immediately we got there, and he just didn't have any plans of going back. 4 years ago, Maria, Sam's mother, suddenly announced that she was getting married. It came as a shock to everyone. No one knew she was seeing someone, and that they were so serious to be getting married. Nobody could oppose it, not with Maria being so adamant about it. She had lost her husband, Sam's father, many years ago, and when she accused her kids of not wanting her happiness, they had no choice but to give in. We met him on the wedding day. Derek. His name is Derek. He was only a few years younger than Maria. He easily won everybody's heart. He was fun and jovial. I guess it was easy for them to accept him that way. He moved in with Maria into the family house, and nobody seemed to object. I didn't either. I liked him naturally. He made everyone laugh, and he even got my son and his cousins to call him Grandpa. At first, there really was nothing between Derek and I, except friendship, particularly when we came visiting during the holidays. I liked how we always seemed to just flow easily in conversation, a thing I couldn't seem to do with others, especially Maria. She never particularly liked me. She had opposed our relationship when Sam and I first started dating. She only barely accepted me when I gave birth to her grandson. We were civil during the occasions we had to be around each other. But I knew that she didn't like me as much. I've always known. So Derek was the one who made me look forward to coming home for any occasion. He would keep me out while I cooked. We usually would talk about anything and everything, and when we went back to our place, He called me every week to check on me. I thought of him as a sweet man, because he made being in the same space as Maria easy, especially since she never said much to me. But then we suddenly had to move back home 2 years ago. It was difficult for me, because I only endured the holidays because I knew I was only staying for a few days. But there was no way to convince Sam otherwise. We had no choice either. Derek was the only reason I was happy to go back. He would come sit with me in the garden every mid-morning. We would talk about everything. I even found myself telling him about how I never wanted to move back there. I complained to him about Sam's insistence that we came. I even went as far as telling him a few other secrets about Sam and I, things that I should never have said. But Derek made me feel safe and seen, and he supported me. He told me that Sam wasn't being a good husband, and that he didn't deserve a loving and patient woman like me. And weirdly, I liked it. I liked it when he paid me compliments. I even started to look forward to our mornings together, when everyone wasn't home at all. Sam's siblings only came around during the holidays. His sister, who lived with them, moved out before we came in. Maria had a busy baking shop that she managed, so she was always gone after breakfast until the evening. My son had school to get to, and Sam had to manage the family's business, so Derek and I were always alone most times, in the house, and at first, we were only just close. Derek told me things too about his relationship with Maria. He told me that he had married her because he thought they would spend their days together, lazying around and loving their grandkids, but she was always so busy. He said that she barely had time for him. He went as far as telling me how boring their sex lives had been. She was either too tired or just wanted something quick and easy. I became really interested in the things he had to say, particularly about sex. I didn't think that old people wanted as much sex as younger people did, and when Derek kept recounting his experiences to me, I was so shocked. Somehow our relationship grew from that into something that was completely immoral, but I thought it was normal. It started with just slight touches, on my arms, legs, even on my face, especially when we sat together. Then it was him smacking my bottom when he walked by, or trying to remove something that isn't there in the first place, inside my bra, and I never complained. I thought it was completely fine. We had just gotten that close, and there was nothing to worry about. Even when he started to grope me, I still didn't mind. In fact, for stupid reasons, I enjoyed his attention. It was something that was lacking in my relationship with Sam since we moved back, and I was happy I was getting it from somewhere else, even though it wasn't appropriate. In front of the family, we behaved completely normal. Derek was a far better liar than I was. He would casually discuss how we spent our day, talking and weeding in the garden, or doing some chores together. Even when Maria would complain about his health, and how he shouldn't be doing things like that, he would playfully kiss her and change the conversation into something else. But soon after that, I found myself hating it when Derek's attention shifted from me. I disliked how he easily touched and kissed Maria, especially in front of the family. I even started to think about stupid things, like what went on in their room when no one was there. One time, I sneaked out of bed and went to listen by their door. Although I heard nothing except snoring, I didn't understand why I was so glad that they weren't doing what couples did. I knew I was starting to get attracted to Derek, and instead of the feeling reducing or going away with time, it just kept growing stronger. I looked forward to spending time with him every day. I was always eager for everyone to leave the house and leave us alone. On weekends, it was torture for me, because Sam and our child were always in the house, except they went for some father and son outing, and Maria, she always left the weekends to her staff. I knew I wanted more with Derek. It prompted me to do crazy things, like wearing revealing dresses. That showed off my breasts and barely covered my bottom. They were the clothes I wore back when we were in a different city, because I didn't have to worry about different people being in the house, like I did while I was here. But Derek, I know I sound shameless and like a wanton woman, but at that point I felt like there was nothing I could do about my attraction to him. And the way he stared at me while I worked or sat across him, it made it easier for me to do more. I wanted to do more. And things continued like that between us, flirty and fun, until one night, when things had totally changed between us. We moved from sharing a father-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship to becoming lovers. That particular weekend, I was not looking forward to it as usual, with Maria interrupting our relationship and with Sam and our son in the house. But that weekend, Sam had to travel out of town. He needed to see some suppliers. And because of how far it was, an almost 6 hours journey by road, Sam told me he would have to come back on Sunday, so he could get everything he needed to get done. And then Maria's older daughter gave birth, and she wanted to pay her a visit. And she decided to take my son along with her. She had asked Derek to go with her, but he told her that he wasn't feeling up to it. He lied about feeling some pains and needed rest. Maria grudgingly asked me to take care of Derek, and then they left. It was the first time ever on a weekend that Derek and I got to be alone. We spent the whole day having fun, talking, laughing, and flirting, and he asked me to watch a movie with him that night. It wasn't even a romantic movie. It was a documentary. Boring. Nothing to ignite or fuel the existing attraction between Derek and I. But somehow I found myself in Derek's lap halfway through the documentary, and I was kissing him. Derek didn't object to my bold move. He had instead kissed me back, because of how uncomfortable doing all that on the chair was. Derek suggested we go into his room, but I objected. I didn't want to have sex on the same bed Maria shared with him. So after a little convincing, we settled for my room, the one I shared with Sam. We had sex on my matrimonial bed. And I wasn't even thinking about Sam, not because Derek was great in bed. He was good, but he lacked the stamina of a young man. But I just liked it, because he made me feel beautiful, and like he couldn't get enough of me. I liked how he admired my body like some work of art, and how he praised my wrinkleless skin. We spent the whole night together in each other's arms, and Derek went back to his room to shower very early in the morning. Unluckily, which I thought was lucky at the time, none of them showed up that day until evening. So Derek and I still spent the day together, having sex and doing crazy things together. And Derek, he found it easy to slip back into being a grandfather and a husband as soon as they got back. And this time when Maria asked how he spent the weekend, he lied easily about just resting. He told her that he barely even saw me because he was in his room all day, except when he came out for his food. It was easy to form a routine with Derek, especially since we were the ones at home most of the time. None of us seemed to be having regrets or guilt about what we were doing. I thought that Maria deserved it. She never treated me right. So it was fine by me that she was being hurt, without even knowing it. And I thought that Sam was also getting punished for his lack of attention. We barely even had sex anymore. He was always so tired and never in the mood. And at first I didn't like it one bit, even though I never told him so. I smiled like everything was all right with us. But when Derek and I started sleeping together, I couldn't care less if we did have sex or not. I was getting the attention I wanted from elsewhere. After some months passed and no one still caught on about our affair, we grew even more bold. Scratch that. Derek grew more bold. He entered my room when Maria was still home and would grope me, despite my reluctance. Sometimes at night he would send me pictures of his membrane to tell me that he missed me. He would even suggest that I sneak out of the bedroom and meet him in the kitchen. I did it thrice, but I was so scared, even though we still managed to get away with it. Derek started to get too clingy and obsessed with me. He couldn't seem to keep his hands off me. And one time, we almost got caught. By my son, who entered the room at the time when Derek and I were kissing. Derek had entered my room while I was getting dressed and started to kiss me. I couldn't object much, even though I knew Sam and our son were around, but they were playing ball in the backyard, and nothing could usually distract them from football, except food, and they ate before they went outside. Derek told me Maria was sleeping and wouldn't wake up until after a few hours, so I thought we were perfectly safe. But then my son walked in, and I immediately pretended I was removing something from his grandpa's eye. It was easy to fool him, but I kept panicking for days, hoping desperately that he didn't mention anything to his dad, even though I promised him some sugar treats if he said nothing to his dad. I told him I was only helping Grandpa, and Grandpa would be embarrassed if he said something to anyone about him needing help. I started to relax again when my son, after 2 weeks, seemed to have forgotten about it, and never said anything to his dad. But I had to try and convince Derek to tone it down and stop doing dangerous things. That could get both of us in trouble. But Derek, he was in love with me, and he told me so. One morning while we laid exhausted from our usual routine, he told me that he was in love with me, and that he wanted us to be together and stop fooling around like we were doing. I was so shocked, because I was never in love with him. I was only attracted to him because he gave me attention and time, and I knew that sexual attraction was different from love. I felt like Derek didn't know the difference, and I tried to convince him. I told him what he felt was probably satisfaction and attraction, not love. But Derek got upset that I was trying to belittle his feelings. And for the first time since we started our affair, he didn't come to me for about a week. I could see that he was affected by it, though. He didn't make jokes at the table where we ate or even touch and kiss Maria like he usually did. He made excuses of not feeling too good, especially when Sam asked him. But I knew it was because I denied his feelings. And I know how crazy this sounds. But I missed his usual hovering around me so much that I went to him and lied that I felt the same way too. Derek was really happy. We made up and went back to our usual routine again. But a few weeks before Thanksgiving, I had to end things permanently between Derek and I, just to keep our secret. And more selfishly, my marriage intact. It was Derek's fault. After the confession of love to each other, he started to act weirdly possessive. He would tell me when we were together that he wanted me to stop sleeping with Sam. He even confessed to me that he hadn't slept with Maria since the day I told him about my feelings. At first, I managed to convince him to start sleeping with Maria, even if it wasn't often, and whenever Sam and I made love. I would lie to Derek about it just to keep him happy. But then Derek started to suggest something really outrageous. He wanted us to elope together and start a new life together. I thought he was joking around at first, but he kept insisting on it. When I jokingly asked who was going to work to provide for us, he told me that he had access to all of Maria's money, and that we could take most of it and run off with it. I knew I had to end our relationship. I didn't want to leave my husband and child for some affair with an old man. So I told him that I wasn't in love with him anymore, that I couldn't sacrifice my young family for a fleeting affair. I told him to focus on his wife from then on, while I focused on mine. But ending things with Derek didn't go as smoothly as I planned. He was livid. And for some time, he still tried to get me in bed with him. Sadly, I fell twice for his attempts. He was so convincing, and knew just how to work me up. But the other times he tried after that, I refused, sticking to my decision. But I struggled with the decision, because Derek kept coming and wanting us to go back to the way we've been. But after that last time, a few days before Thanksgiving, that I had rejected him again, and said some awful things to him, he stopped completely. He paid no attention to me, and basically just ignored me around the house. Others noticed his cold behavior towards me, but when they asked, I lied that it was nothing, that we just hardly ever spent time together anymore. I thought it was finally over. I was even proud of myself. I stupidly thought that the hard days were over, that I successfully managed my home and affair without any of it getting in each other's way, and I really thought that I had gotten away with it completely, especially after the good news that Sam shared with me. He told me that we would be moving to a different city by the new year. He said that he got a job that is 10 times better than his first job. I was so glad, because it meant I would be able to put distance between Derek and I. That would give him time to move on from me. Derek's brother was moving back home in the new year too, although in a different house, but he was going to take over the family's business with his wife, so everyone was happy. I thought there was nothing going to stop my happiness. Nothing but the truth, apparently. Thanksgiving has always been special. Not just because it was Thanksgiving, but because it was also my birthday. Like I wrote earlier, and I didn't expect this one to be any different. It was supposed to be a happy moment for us all, but this one wasn't. It went in a completely different way from what I expected. Everyone had arrived at the house, so the house was filled with people. Sam had even insisted on us inviting my parents and my siblings for this Thanksgiving. The house couldn't contain half the crowd, and we had to rent hotel rooms so everyone could get a place to sleep before the D-Day. I did all the running around with the help of some other younger women in the family. We did all the work, and I was always so tired by night that I just fell asleep almost immediately. That is the only reason I can give to not have noticed it. Sam's change of attitude towards me. Maybe if I hadn't spent too much time trying to make that disastrous dinner happen. Then I would have noticed. Maybe even got up on time or stirred up in sleep to have noticed Sam going through my phone, looking for evidence of my betrayal, and he did find it. He found it and used it to completely ruin me. The day finally came and everyone was excited. We made so much food and everyone had a different choice if they wanted. Everyone was at the table gisting, laughing, and complimenting each other. Everyone was happy, especially after tasting the food dot. They praised me for putting together the dinner. Even Maria, who never said much to me, had bragged about my cooking skills to her friends that she invited over. I was so pleased. I was having the time of my life. Even though Derek was trying to pretend like I didn't exist. He didn't even sing with everyone while they did. He only kept drinking even after Maria tried to stop him from doing so. But I didn't care. I was just so happy. And more so when my sister-in-law brought out a surprise birthday cake and started singing a happy birthday song to me. I was so surprised and happy. I didn't know when she had the time to go get the cake, because we worked together for the past couple of days to make everything work. I blew the candle on my cake and even made a wish, and then cut the cake, and my sister-in-law took it to go share it into small pieces, so everyone could have a bite. While everything was going on, Sam was also ignoring me. He just kept talking to his brothers about some work-related stuff. I was upset, but I tried to ignore it. I didn't want anything to ruin my day. One I had worked so hard to make perfect. And the whole dinner was coming to an end. Everyone was stuffed and only drank their drinks now. So my younger sister suggested that we should all raise a toast to something you're grateful for, and also to the birthday girl. Me. Everyone said their own bits. They were grateful for life, friends, family, and others. Many people had good things to say about me, too. I was the loving, dependable, nice daughter and daughter-in-law. Even Maria had praised my homemaking skills, and I was truly happy, until Derek stood up. He was drunk. I could tell from the way he stuttered, the way he swayed slightly, too, when he stood up. I was afraid he was going to say something stupid, but there was no way I could stop him from speaking without making the others suspicious. So I just prayed silently and desperately in my mind. And I also tried to make eye contact with him to plead with him, not to say something stupid. But he just ignored my pleading eyes and went on to say what he wanted. He only looked at me when he said the last thing he said. To my daughter-in-law. Elegant, graceful, and dependable. Some people know how to keep a home. Some know how to keep a man. And very few know how to keep a secret. Here's to you for mastering all three. Everyone clicked their glasses, none of them truly understanding the meaning behind his words, except Sam. He had been speaking to an old friend and was smiling at what he said, but immediately he heard Derek's toast. The smile vanished from his face. I knew because I kept looking around for anyone who suspected the double meaning behind Derek's words. I saw him when the smile vanished, and then he slowly walked to the table. He picked up a glass of champagne and raised it. Everyone thought he was finally paying attention to what we were doing, but he just merely drank it and then placed his phone on the table and played something. Without any words, none at all. He destroyed everything that I thought I had managed to keep under the cover. Right there on the table was a recording of Derek and I together. Sam. He heard everything. When Derek and I had been arguing about our relationship, I didn't even know he was in the house then. He had heard when Derek told me that he couldn't stop wanting me. He saw us when Derek kissed me, and I didn't push him away immediately. He heard me yell at Derek that it was truly over between us. I was so shocked and kept staring at his phone on the table, wishing that it was just some horrible nightmare that I would wake up from. Everyone was shocked and started to talk all at once. But I couldn't say anything. I just sat there frozen in shock. Sam shocked me further by providing more evidence. Screenshots of our chats were there. On nights when Derek and I couldn't leave our spouses and we had to just use our phones as getaways. There were even screenshots of the one time Derek spoke about eloping with me on the phone, and how he loved me and was willing to steal Maria's money so we could be together. While the phone was being passed around so everyone could read it, Derek started to shout. He lied that it was all my fault, that I seduced him, and he only did those things because I managed to manipulate him. But no one believed him. The evidence said otherwise. There were no more lies to tell. No one would believe me. Sam told me that he wanted to divorce me silently, without really exposing me. But then, your lover toasting to your secrets is the greatest insult to me and my family. He said, and he told me that he never wanted to see me again, and that he would fight me with everything he has, if he had to make sure I never see our son again. People who had praised me a few minutes ago were all bashing me, saying horrible things to me. But I didn't care, not as much as I cared what Sam thought about me. So I went after him when he tried to leave. I knelt, held his legs, and kept crying for forgiveness. I promised him that I would never do it again, that I couldn't live without him or our child. But Sam, he looked at me in disgust and just shook me off. Then he left. My parents and siblings left immediately after him. They said nothing to me, but their expression said it all. I was a shame and disgrace to them. Maria was next. She ordered Derek and I out of her house. Even though I tried to beg her, she didn't want to hear it. And that night, I ended up on the street in an old abandoned building for shelter. It's been barely a week. I've managed to get a small space to live in, and I thought that at least until I got Sam to forgive me. But sadly, when I tried going back to the house, just yesterday, I was told by one of the workers that Sam had relocated, but he wouldn't tell me where, no matter how much I begged. My life is over. Just where do I start from? Update. Hello, everyone. It's me again. It's been a while since my last post, almost a year, actually. And today's my birthday, and Thanksgiving. And while others are busy celebrating with their family and receiving gifts, or having things to be grateful for, I'm here, alone, and here writing on this app, wishing that this hell on earth would just stop, or end. Remembering what happened last year on this very same day brings me the ultimate agony. Not that every other day hasn't been torture too. Trying to look for Sam and our child has been as impossible as trying to find a pin in sand. Nobody wanted to help me. It didn't matter that I swore that I was changed, or that I promised to do better. Everyone thought of me as a wanton woman, even here on this app. Sam hadn't told me where we were moving to. He told me he wanted it to be a surprise, and I hadn't pushed further. Back then, I was only so glad that we were finally leaving, and I regret that so much. Living around here was my only option, asides the fact that I have no other places to go to, and I didn't have any money to move away. It's also my only chance at seeing Sam and our son again. I imagined that if they ever came back to town, then I would see them. But that hasn't happened for almost a year now. Everyone here treats me like vomit. They hate me so much and never try to hide it. I thought with time everything will be forgotten, and I could perhaps live a normal life again. But sadly, people never forget. I'm that woman who had no shame and slept with her father-in-law countless times. I'm all alone, in this cold, empty room that depicts my life now. My parents still want nothing to do with me. They never picked my calls ever since that day, and I know that they still see their grandson, especially because my sister would post their pictures with him once in a while on Instagram. I'm now reduced to a stalker just to get any sort of information on them. But I've gotten nothing on Sam so far, not even a recent picture or anything. It's almost like he disappeared completely. He had blocked me on every means of reaching out to him, and after several times of buying new lines just to reach out to him, he completely deactivated the number I knew. It was no longer in service, and until now, I still get the same response. Living without them has been so hard for me. I miss them so much, and I keep recalling that day when Sam turned on me, the way he looked at me at his feet begging. It was obvious that every feeling of love towards me had turned to hate, and the divorce papers he sent me barely a month later, another big evidence of how well he hates me now. It pains me so much that all I have left of us are the memories in my head and the few pictures on my phone. Maria didn't allow me to take anything that had Sam or her grandchild in it, and that includes our wedding pictures, the album that I created of my son from a baby to toddler, and every other special moment. I'm certain that Sam didn't take any of mine either. Nothing for him to remember me by. Nothing for our son to remember me by. I find myself wondering so often what Sam would say if our son asked about me. Would he tell him the truth? Would he cover up for me? I have no idea of knowing. And it's driving me crazy, because I know for sure that even if Sam says nothing to protect our son, his grandmother would, and he will grow up hating me more and more for being a liar, a cheat, and a terrible mother to him. and I regret everything so much. I didn't think of the consequences, and even when I did, I didn't think it would be this punishing and painful and lonely too. I wish that I could undo all of the things that I have done. I wish that I had never gotten close to Derek, or even done all the things we did together, remembering how much pleasure I had then while throwing away my future. It makes my skin crawl, and I feel so irritated and disgusted by myself. I wish there was a way to just go back in time and undo all of these. Derek had blamed everything on me, despite being the one who claimed to love me. I should have known him as he truly was, a liar and a coward, but I don't blame him. If I hadn't been a willing believer of his lies and deceit, if I had focused on working on my marriage, instead of focusing on all the wrong things, then I wouldn't be here, trying to relieve my pain, but only managing to increase it further. Words can really not express how deeply I regret everything, and I know that I could never ease back into Sam's and our son's life anymore. I lost that right and privilege when I chose to have an affair, and I know that I will spend the rest of my life making up for it, even if my lifetime will never be enough to pay for everything I've done. This is my last post here, but I hope that regardless of how you feel about me, none of you end up as alone and heartbroken as I have. Goodbye.